On today's episode of The Franchise, today is Friday, January 20th. In this episode, we're going to preview the AFC and NFC Divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We're going to talk about those games, give picks for who will win them. Spoiler alert, they're basically the exact same picks from the playoff predictions video. We're going to talk about some playoff or some destinations for Lamar Jackson if he does not re-sign or return to the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm going to give out my top 10 shortstops heading in to the 2023 MLB season. I basically did this entire episode yesterday, on Thursday, recorded it, and then it wouldn't save, wouldn't download. So we are doing it again. But it's the first time for you guys, so it doesn't affect you guys that much. Franchise is available YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Let's get right into it. We're going to start this one off with our top 10 shortstops, and there's a very big disclaimer that needs to be put before this list, and that is Fernando Tatis Jr. He's not on this list because I don't know what position Fernando Tatis Jr. is. Last time we saw him play in 2021, he was a shortstop. Arguably the best shortstop in the game. 2022, injured, suspended, didn't play. And then for 2023, he's most likely going to be playing an outfield position with the addition of Xander Bogaerts to the Padres, Machado at third base. Tatis isn't going to play second, so he's going to move to the outfield. So he's not in the shortstop ranking. And he'll also not be in any positional ranking. He's not going to be in the left field or the right field or the center field because I don't know what position he's going to play. And I just don't know where to rank him amongst some of those other players at those positions. So since Tatis didn't play last season and I don't know where he's going to play, he won't be on any of the top 10 positional lists. And he probably won't be on our top X players list when that finally comes out. But once he starts playing in 2023, he'll definitely make a list. Anyways, top 10 shortstops. Also, I mean, if Tatis was on this list, he would be number one, but he's not. So, top 10 shortstops. Beginning at number 10, from the Houston Astros, World Series MVP, Jeremy Pena. This guy, last year in his rookie season, had to fill the shoes of Carlos Correa, who you'll find out later is one of the best shortstops in the game. He had to fill some pretty big shoes down there with the Astros, and I'd say he did a pretty good job at doing so. 22 home runs, 253 average, 289 on base, 426 slugging, with a 715 OPS. Defensively, he had 16 defensive run saves. That's enough for first in the shortstop position, all of Major League Baseball. He ranked in the 92nd percentile in outs above average. He's one of the fastest players in the sport as well. And at the plate, he's a guy that can hit, 20-plus home runs. And, I mean, he's going to strike out a lot. He's not going to walk a lot. But he's also still a young player. Only 25 years old. I can see Jeremy Pena really molding in to who he's going to be in these next few seasons. And I think he could be a guy that hits 25 home runs, hits at a 260, 270 clip, and can drive in, 80, maybe even 90 RBIs a season. But just based off of the season he had last year, and also helping the Astros in the entire postseason, winning the World Series MVP, being a very impactful player on the Astros, he's a huge reason that they won the World Series last year. And he played amazing, and I think he's only going to get better as his career goes on. I mean, he was only a rookie last season, and he's number 10 on the list. Number 9, I have Bo Bichette from the Toronto Blue Jays. He's an amazing hitter. He has got all of the talent in the world offensively to be one of the best hitters, not only at the shortstop position, but in all of Major League Baseball. You look at his stats last season, 24 home runs, 290 batting average with a 333 on base, 469 slugging, and 802 OPS. Drove in 93 RBIs last season. He is an amazing hitter. He's a guy, he's already an all-star in his career. He's a guy that could hit 25 to 30 home runs a year, hit at a near 300 clip, and get on base at a very nice, 300, maybe even 400 clip, or even probably a high 300 clip, throughout his career. The problem and the thing that really holds him back is his defense. He's probably one of the worst defensive shortstops in the game. Last season, he had a negative 16 defensive runs saved. He's in the 7th percentile in outs above average. And he doesn't offensively, he doesn't walk a lot, and he doesn't strike out a lot. Or he does strike out a lot. So Bo makes, many things happen offensively, but defensively, he's not reliable. He's not a good defender. If the ball is hit to the shortstop position, it's not a guarantee that it's going to be an easy out, because Bo Bichette, I'd have to really watch videos of him fielding, because as a former shortstop, I can say, if it's his footwork or his glove or his eyes, many things, could lead to him not being a good defender. And I think, he's such a young player. He's only 24 years old. He has so much potential to be a really good defender. And if he becomes an average defender with the way he plays offensively, he could find himself being a top 5 shortstop, in a year or two in Major League Baseball. He comes in at number 9. Number 8, I have former Atlanta Brave, newly acquired Chicago Cub, Dansby Swanson. Last year was a great season for Dansby Swanson. That was kind of the year that a lot of people have been waiting for since he cracked in to the big leagues. Last season, 277 average, 25 home runs, 329 on base, 447 slugging, with a 776 OPS. You look at, the years before, 2021 was a great season for him as well. 27 home runs with a 248 average. The year before that, 10 homers, 17, 14. He hit 274, 251, 238. He's always been like a 15 home run guy throughout his career. But the last 2 years, 25 plus home runs, a 270 plus batting average. He's really improved his offensive game, and that's great because his defense is among some of the best in the baseball in Major League Baseball. 9 defensive runs saved last season, in the 100th percentile in outs above average. That's the best of the best. He's going to be a great fit for the Chicago Cubs. If he can perform at this level, he's 28, entering his prime. If he can continue to play at this level of a 25 home run guy with some Gold Glove defense at that shortstop position for 3 to 4 seasons, the Cubs are going to be in a great, great spot. So that's why I have Dansby Swanson coming in at number 8. Number 7 is going to be Tim Anderson from the from the White Sox. Very, very limited sample size last season. Missed a very good amount of games. Only had 332 at bats. In those, 6 home runs, 301 batting average, 339 on base, 395 slugging, 734 OPS. He's a great hitter. He's a career near 300 hitter every single year. He's a guy that could hit 20 home runs and steal 20 bags. But, as is the case with a lot of these players, maybe not so much at the shortstop position, but at a lot of other spots around the diamond, he's not a reliable defender. Last season, in his very limited sample size, like I said, -7 defensive runs saved, 12 errors at that shortstop position. His arm is not the best. He projects long-term to be a second baseman. I would say, I'm pretty sure he becomes a free agent in the 2023 offseason, if not the following. If a team signs him, I feel like they would not be signing him as a shortstop. I think they would be pulling what the Blue Jays did and the Rangers did with Marcus Semien, and that's signing him to a big deal, but moving him to second base, because that's honestly where he's going to be the best defensively, is at that second base position. But his offense is amazing. A 300 hitter who can hit 20 bombs and steal 20 bags and drive in runs and be just a very, very productive offensive player. I think that's enough to carry him despite his defense being among the worst in Major League Baseball. Number 6 is Wander Franco. Same thing goes with him as it does with Tim Anderson. Very, very limited sample size last season. 314 at-bats for Wander Franco. 6 home runs, 277 average. Last season, 0 defensive runs saved. 69 percentile outs above average. The thing with Wander Franco, he showed it a lot in his 2021 rookie campaign. He does not strike out, and he walks at a decent clip. He squares up the ball. He barely swings and misses at pitches, and he gets on base a lot. I think it was in 2021, his rookie year, I think he had a streak of near 50-something games of consecutive games on base. I'd have to double check, but he had this crazy streak of getting on base during the 2021 season. He's an amazing hitter. At only 21 years old, I'd say he's got the potential to be one of the best hitters in the game by the end of the season. If he can play the full season, he's going to be a guy that can hit 20 home runs, hit a 300 clip, get on base at a 350 plus percentage, and he's not going to strike out, and he's not going to swing and miss, and he's going to get on base. So Wander Franco has so much potential at such a young age. He's coming in number 6 right now. I could see him being the best shortstop in the game in 2 years' time. Cracking the top 5 is newly acquired San Diego Padre, Xander Bogaerts. He might be the best hitting shortstop on the planet. This guy is a 292 career hitter. Hit 307 last year, 15 home runs, 377 on base, 456 slugging, 833 OPS. Defensively, last season, 5 defensive runs saved, 88th percentile and outs above average. He really cleaned up his defense last season. Years past, he hasn't been known as a defender. He's been known, as a guy who is a great hitter, but defensively is below average. And, you could make the argument that long-term he's going to be a third baseman. But as a shortstop right now, if he can play this level of defense that he just played this past season for the next few years with the Padres, along with what he can do offensively, Xander Bogaerts is freaking amazing. The thing is, he is 30 years old. Padres signed him to, I think it was an 11-year deal. How many years of Xander Bogaerts, how many productive years of Xander Bogaerts are you getting? You could be looking at minimum 3 at max, maybe 6. But next season, and based off of these last few seasons, Xander Bogaerts is way too good not to be a top 5 shortstop. Multiple-time All-Star, World Series, 2-time World Series champion. He's just one of the best shortstops, in the game. Number 4, I have Corey Seager from the Texas Rangers. Last year, 33 home runs, 245 average, 317 on base, 455 slugging. Corey Seager is, like I said about Xander Bogaerts, Corey Seager is up there with some of the best hitters, not only in baseball, or not only at the shortstop position, but all of baseball. Corey Seager is one of those few shortstops that's going to be a consistent 30-plus home run guy. And defensively, -4 defensive runs saved last season, 86th percentile, outs above average. He will be a third baseman later on in his career, 28 years old, but he is an impactful player. He's a great, amazing hitter from that left side of the plate. You look at advanced metrics, and they're freaking incredible. He doesn't strike out a lot. He squares up the ball. He has some of the hardest exit velocity in the game. A lot of those advanced numbers, Corey Seager really dominates. And defensively, I think, he's a pretty average defender, and that is enough with his elite level offense to make him the 4th best shortstop in Major League Baseball. Number 3, this is my favorite shortstop. I think, the other 2 guys, they are better, but this player right here, he's my favorite shortstop. If I was to build a team, of my favorite players at each position, this guy right here would be my shortstop, and that's Francisco Lindor from the Mets. He's so good on both sides of the ball. His first year with the Mets, was a little bit of a down year, you could say. But this past year, 2022, with the Mets, really flipped the script over there. 26 home runs, 270 average, 339 on base, 449 slugging. You take a look at his first year with the Mets, 20 home runs, 230 average. He really struggled for the first half of that year. But his time in Cleveland was great. From his stretch in 2019 to 2017, 30-plus homer guy with a 270-plus average, driving in 80-plus RBIs a season, stealing 20-plus bags, and playing Gold Glove defense at that shortstop position as well. He's an amazing defender. I mean, last year, -2 defensive runs saved. He's played better defense, 98th percentile in outs above average. But this guy, I mean, he's such an amazing player to watch. He's a switch hitter. Freaking awesome. Hits dingers all the time. I think for the next few years with the Mets, with them being one of the better teams in baseball, at least on paper, Lindor is going to be a huge part of that. He's the shortstop for the Mets. He's going to be a very big part of if they want to make, World Series runs. I think he has all the potential in the world to do that. He's an amazing player, great defender, great offensive player. So Francisco Lindor, my favorite shortstop, comes in at number 3. Number 2, these top 2, I could see the argument for both of these guys being number 1. But as you'll see why I have the number 1 guy over this guy, it comes down to the defense. So number 2, I have Trey Turner from the Phillies, formerly of the Dodgers. Trey Turner is freaking incredible. He's a 20-plus homer guy every single season, 20-plus stolen base guy, 300 hitter for his career, 300 hitter guy, every single year. Defensively, -1 defensive runs saved, 48th percentile outs above average. He's a average defender, but he's one of the fastest players in the game, and he's one of the best hitters in the game at the shortstop position. He's such a valuable player to any team. You can have him batting 1 or 2 in the lineup, and he's going to get on base. I mean, like the way he can start off a game, he can lead off for you, hit a double, and then your second and third hitter in the lineup can hit a single to right field or to center field, and Trey Turner can easily put your team up 1-0 because he's one of the fastest players in the game, one of the best hitters. He's just all around offensively so valuable that his average defense doesn't hurt him at all. The only way it hurts him is by him not being the number 1 shortstop in the game, and for me, that is Carlos Correa. Excuse me. Carlos Correa, for me, is the best shortstop in the game. He is a former Gold Glover, former Platinum Glover. That is the most pristine defensive award in the game. And offensively, 22 home runs last season, 291 average, 366 on base, 467 slugging, 833 OPS. If you look at his baseball savant page, everything's in the red. Red is like the best of the best. He's got one of the best arms at the shortstop position. He hits for power. He hits for average. He gets on base. He hits home runs. He drives in runs. And he plays some of the best defense at the shortstop position. So that is the reason I have him over Trey Turner, because of his defense. Trey Turner, might be more. He's way more valuable on the base pass and at the top of your lineup. But Correa to be a 4, 5, 6 hitter and play some of the best defense at the shortstop position is why I have him at number 1 in the top 10 shortstops. All right. NFL playoffs divisional round starts on Saturday. We have 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. We're going to go through those right now. Jaguars-Chiefs is the first game of the AFC divisional round. Chiefs are at home, coming off their bye week that they earned by being the number 1 seed. Jaguars coming from that 27-point comeback win to beat the Chargers and advance to this game. I like the Chiefs to win. I give the Chiefs a 95% chance to go out and win this football game. You look at their team. They are I'd say they're the most experienced team in the entire playoffs left. MVP quarterback, going to win the MVP this season, won it in years past. Super Bowl champion quarterback, head coach, tight end, Super Bowl team. Like I said, one of the greatest head coaches of all time, Andy Reid. Best player in football, Patrick Mahomes. Best tight end, Travis Kelce. A wide receiver room that doesn't have Tyreek Hill, but has Juju, Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. They have a lot of weapons in the wide receiver room. So the Chiefs, I'd give them a 95% chance to win this game. The Jaguars, how do they win this game? If the Jaguars want to win, first of all, Trevor Lawrence needs to play like he did in the second half of the game against the Jaguars, not the first half. If he throws 4 interceptions against the Chiefs, they lose the game. If Trevor Lawrence throws two interceptions, they lose the game. 1 interception, they have a chance. If the Jaguars go down 17 points, 14 points, 14 points is more realistic. If they go down 17, 21, 27 points to the Kansas City Chiefs, they will lose the game. So the Jaguars, they want to win. Trevor Lawrence, first of all, needs to play his best football of his career. And second of all, they need to take advantage of any mistakes the Chiefs make defensively. They're still not one of the best teams defensively. They're not as bad as they were, a few seasons ago. But they're better than they were back then. But they're not the best, right? If you're Jacksonville, you need to take advantage of any mistakes that the Chiefs make on defense. And defensively, you have to be ready for Patrick Mahomes to make a mistake. He doesn't make many, right? He barely turns the ball over. But you have to be ready for him to do such a thing, for him to extend a play, to extend and make a crazy behind-the-back pass. You have to be ready for anything if you're the Jaguars. So I'm taking the Chiefs to win this game, give them a 95% chance. I just don't see a way that Jacksonville can upset the Chiefs, who are probably the best team in the AFC and all of football right now. And then that next AFC game is the Bengals and the Bills. That should be one of the best games of the entire playoffs. 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks in the sport, put them at 2 or 3. You can hear the argument for both. Both have offensively have some amazing weapons. Defensively are 2 of the stronger teams in the AFC. So this will be a very, very hard-fought battle in Buffalo. I'm going to take the Bengals. My picks for these games are the same as my playoff predictions. So they're not changing based off of who's here. But I really like the Bengals. They're my pick to go and win the Super Bowl. But in this game against the Bills, it's going to be a great game. For the Bengals, if they want to win, they got to take advantage of Josh Allen's turnovers. And if the Bills want to win, they need to make sure he doesn't turn the ball over. Because Josh Allen's been turning the ball over a lot this season in the red zone, interceptions, careless mistakes with the football. And that is because he has so much talent to extend plays and make incredible throws to guys that don't seem like they're open. Josh Allen can make them open. But at the same time, he can also turn the ball over in the process. So if you're the Bills, you need to make sure Josh Allen doesn't turn over the football. And if you're Cincinnati, you need to take advantage of bad throws, bad decisions, careless acts with the football from Josh Allen. And then offensively, you just need to keep doing what you're doing. They've been one of the best offenses during their very long win streak. Joe Burrow has been playing out of his mind. He needs to continue to find Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and feed Joe Mixon. And I think the Bengals have a very nice recipe for success. It is a tougher defense than the Ravens. The Bills are one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. So it will be a very tough game for both of these teams, but I'm going to still take the Cincinnati Bengals. Move it over to the NFC side. The first game, Giants-Eagles. I think the Eagles have a 99% chance to win this game. I know there's some of you out there who say the Eagles are, they're frauds. Oh, they're not a really good team. They only won, 12, 13 games because they played a very weak schedule. I looked. Yes, they didn't have one of the stronger schedules in the NFL. But during the season, they were an elite level team. Third in yards per game offensively, third in points per game, second in yards allowed a game defensively, eighth in points allowed per game. They had a +8 turnover differential, and they had 27 takeaways. So on both sides of the ball, they're top 10, top 5 in every category you look at. Jalen Hurts, if he didn't get hurt, he didn't get injured, miss a few games, he's finishing top 3 in MVP in the MVP voting, and there's a legit conversation right now that he could win MVP. I don't think he would, right, if he didn't get injured, but there's a conversation now about the MVP award because Jalen Hurts, I would expect he'd be balling out like he did the entire season. The Eagles have a top 10 rushing team, top 5 rushing with Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. Their offensive line is one of the best in football. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith make up a very talented wide receiver duo. And defensively, they're freaking amazing. Like I said, second in yards allowed per game and eighth in points allowed. And a +8 turnover differential, 27 takeaways. I mean, that is a very nice recipe in the playoffs. They can run the football and they can play defense. That's really all you need to win these games. So I'll take the Eagles over the Giants. The Giants have not played good against Philadelphia all year. They haven't won a playoff game in Philadelphia in a decade. So Eagles over the Giants. Cowboys 49ers will be a very good game. Two of the best defenses during the regular season in the NFL facing off, and two quarterbacks that are playing some of their best football they've ever played. Dak Prescott coming off of a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a career night for him. Brock Purdy, since he stepped in for Jimmy Garoppolo, has been playing amazing football. The Niners offense has been even better with Brock Purdy. This is going to be a great game. I will still take the 49ers to win this game. I'm not going to change from my picks, even though the matchup is different. It is going to be a great game. It's really going to be a good one. When these things happen, when you have teams that are very good on defense, very similar on defense. Offensively, they're both very. The Niners have more pieces offensively, but the Cowboys' pieces are not to be fooled around with either. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, a solid offensive line based off of how they played against the Buccaneers. Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. They match up very well together. So in games like this, it comes down to two things: head coach and quarterback. Kyle Shanahan is probably the best offensive coach in the game. He's been in these kind of scenarios before. He's been to Super Bowl. He's been to a few Super Bowls. Mike McCarthy's won a Super Bowl. He's been deep in playoffs. So again, these teams match up. So it comes down to the quarterback position. Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy. Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. I think we can all agree on that. Despite how good Brock Purdy's been playing, Dak Prescott is better. Don't try and convince yourself that Brock Purdy is better than Dak Prescott, okay? Brock Purdy's great. But Dak Prescott is better. So when it comes to those kind of things, when the teams match up, you look at where you got to look at the quarterback position and who is better. And yes, Dak Prescott is better. But I'm going to take the 49ers. I will take the 49ers to win this game. I'd say it's a 50-50 shot at who wins this game. I think this is going to be the best game of the divisional round. The Bills-Bengals one will be great too. It's probably going to be the second best game. But this game will be great because of the defenses. and the offenses are just as good. This is about as evenly matched as it gets between these two teams. All right, finally, what are some destinations for Lamar Jackson? If he doesn't return to the Ravens, I think he's going to be a Raven next year, whether he signs a long-term contract extension or he gets franchise tagged. But let's just say he gets franchise tagged and he doesn't want to play for the Ravens anymore, or he requests a trade or whatever. What are 5 teams? I have 5 teams for you that I think would be some pretty good fits for Lamar Jackson. Number 5 is the Raiders. I think it's an attractive destination for a quarterback. Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson. Because of the weapons. They have Devontae Adams, top 3 to 5 receiver in the NFL. Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs possibly returning. Darren Waller at tight end. A good left tackle. The offensive line could use some work. So the Raiders have the pieces offensively, especially for Lamar. If you have the opportunity to play with Devontae Adams, the best receiver he's ever played with, in Las Vegas with the Raiders, with the potential, to add pieces to the defense and to the offensive line, and maybe even some more weapons. I think the Raiders are going to be an option for a few quarterbacks this offseason. Lamar, if he doesn't want to stay with the Ravens, I'd say the Raiders should go out there and get Lamar Jackson. I have the Giants in here too. I think they'll end up keeping Daniel Jones, but if Daniel Jones is a great dual threat quarterback, but Lamar Jackson's the best of the best dual threat in the NFL. If you add Lamar Jackson to a team with Saquon Barkley and head coach and Brian Daboll, who will win Coach of the Year, one of the best offensive coaches in the league. I mean, he turned this Giants team around from 2021 being a horrible team offensively to this year being top 10 offensively, depending on what stats you look at, and taking the team to the playoffs. The wide receiver room could use some work for Lamar. I mean, would you want to play with a group that doesn't have a true number one receiver? Probably not. So the Giants are up there because they can make a lot of additions in the offseason around Lamar. 3 is the Jets. They're a better situation than the Giants because they have receivers. They have Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. They'll have Breece Hall returning at running back. And they have a great defense. So Lamar just needs to step in to that quarterback role, and the Jets will be perfect. These top 2 are my personal favorites. The second one is the Vikings. Now the Vikings, they need to fix their defense. Their defense was horrible last season, about the worst it can get. But Kirk Cousins is not going to take you to a Super Bowl, and he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. He can barely win 1 playoff game. Can he win 2, 3, and ultimately the Super Bowl? I don't think so. And with the talent that they have on offense, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Dalvin Cook, adding Lamar Jackson to the Minnesota Vikings would be one of the best offensive teams in the NFL. But number 1 for me is the Dolphins. Now look, Tua played pretty good last season when he was on the field, but he had 3 concussions last season. So if you're the Dolphins, you have to take a look this offseason and say, how many games is this guy going to play for us next season? And how many more games does he have left in his career? 3 concussions in 1 season is bad. If he has 2 concussions next year, there's going to be you have to take a serious look if you're Tua and the team that should you even continue playing the game of football, because this guy is getting beat up multiple times a year with multiple concussions. So I think for those people who are going to say that the Dolphins are not going to move on from Tua, they have to think about it. They have to take a really good look at their options besides Tua, because how many games is he going to play for them? I know when he did play last year, or this past season, he was great. He was 8-0 as a starter for the Dolphins at one point. But how many games can you rely on him to play? And Lamar can step into a team that has Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki. That's one of the best teams offensively. They have 2 top 20 wide receivers. One of them's top 5, top 10, wherever you want to put Tyreek Hill. And Mike McDaniel, one of the best offensive head coaches in the game. So Lamar Jackson, number 1 destination besides the Ravens, for me, is the Miami Dolphins. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back on Monday recapping the AFC and NFC divisional round, giving out top 10 third basemen, and whatever else happens over the weekend in the NFL, MLB, NBA. We'll be back. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, franchise available. See y'all later.